Okay, so today I'm starting the toy piano series. I have at least 10 scores to get through, and the makeup of these composers is actually very similar to the organ series I did. A lot of Americans, a lot of Brits, some Austrian composers, and that's about it. Um, it's going to be pretty male dominated too, I think, unfortunately. If you don't know what a toy piano is, um, it's something like this. So there's a couple companies that make these. The most uh, sort of like well-known one was Shoenut. That company I believe no longer exists. This thing is a JMAR, which is kind of like a copies a lot of the Shoenut designs, but I think it's just somewhere in the global south it's made, whereas Shoenut was a German company. But basically, inside a toy piano, you got some metal tines and then some very simple plastic hammers that hit the tines when you press the keys. This thing is almost 3 octaves, starting on F. Here's a shoe nut that's just over 1 octave. They generally range from like 1 to 3 octaves. It's very rare that you find one with more than that. Although I think there is, yeah, if you go to like the really real antique ones, they don't even have black keys. The black keys are just painted on, so you only have like the white keys, like major scale, C major. Anyways, it's an acoustic instrument. They have grand piano designs and also upright piano designs. Some of the upright ones, they stand tall enough that you can kind of sit on the ground and play them as an adult. But really, they were originally invented as like a toy for children. They just happen to be like uh, an acoustic instrument, right? This Melissa and Doug brand one I think this is the only one you can buy on Amazon right now. Um, they're usually about like $40 or something. Um, and this is kind of the type of toy piano I had when I was living in Texas. I kind of left it in Texas, but I had a 2 octave thing starting on middle C, and it was very like not all of the keys worked the same, and there's a very small amount of action on the keys, right? And it's very cramped on your hands. So there's all kinds of limitations to playing on these things. The first piece we're going to look at is the most recent one that I have. It's called Machaut Fragments by Richard P. John, and it was written in 2023. This is our second Richard P. John episode. The first one was the series finale to our organ series. I'll just put up the episode number for that here. Okay, so pages are in free order. Each piece consists of 3 phrases. Between each phrase, space or pause. Between each page, a place to dwell, each tone for itself. Accidentals only affect the notes they immediately precede and in the phrase in which they occur. So each page of this looks kind of like this. Each line has 3, 4, or 5 notes, it looks like, in different configurations. And that's it. The whole thing takes about 16 minutes to play. It's going to be kind of hard to follow on in the score here because it's could be in any order. So unless this is in the order that the PDF is, you might not be able to follow it. A link to this recording is in the video description. I hope this is a good enough introduction to the genre, and yeah, I welcome you to the world of toy piano. Okay, yeah, so obviously this is a very extreme piece. You can't really listen to it with the score. The score is more just something to be played from and physically printed so that you can shuffle the pages or whatever. Yeah, if you've ever heard toy piano in a live setting, like a concert hall, it's an extremely quiet instrument and it doesn't have much of a dynamic range. So I think it's kind of interesting that this score doesn't bother with dynamics at all. It just gives you the notes. And just one note at a time. There's something very intimate about the way it's performed here and the recording. You can hear every time the keys are lifted, not just when the notes are pressed down. And yeah, it's full of silences. It's kind of hard, like it moves so slowly that it's kind of hard to keep track of all the pitches one after another, right? It's like the line gets kind of lost. So there's something interesting about that too. Um, so yeah, that was Machaut Fragments. I'm sure there are other toy piano pieces like this. It doesn't really play with the idea of it being a piano, um, but it's definitely kind of like in the spirit of John Cage, who I think I mentioned last episode, kind of started the whole toy piano movement. Um, so like this use of silence and stuff is very Cagean, and Cage did some of his first toy piano writing before writing 4 minutes and 33 seconds. There's actually more of a thing he was doing at Merce Cunningham's dance company. But that we'll get to maybe at the end of the series. Tomorrow we're listening to a piece by Karlheinz Essl. Okay, so today I'm looking at a short toy piano piece by Austrian composer Karlheinz Essl. It's called Centime, and it's from 2019. It was written for David Bond, who I guess had a call for scores that were pieces for toy piano that are 100 notes in length. Uh, you can see it's just one page of score, written for a 3-octave toy piano. There are 3 processes going on at the same time. The impetus of 3 octaves collapsing into a single pitch, tempo from slow to fast, and moving from piano to fortissimo throughout. There's a computer simulation of it. We might be listening to that today, I'm not sure. And then a little biography of Karlheinz Essl. We've covered a number of Essl's works on the channel already, so I encourage you to go to these videos if you're interested. And the first of those videos is where I go over his biography. This piece looks similar to another piece we looked at of Essl's called 300 Notes. So I think he took this idea and later expanded it into a more substantial piece. Just my hunch. So David Bond is a composer active in the Midwest in the US. He's played a couple of my pieces. He regularly collaborates with this organization, Vox Novus, that does a series called 15 Minutes of Fame. So through that, he's performed a lot of miniatures that were basically not quite commissions, but like submissions to calls for scores. I'm assuming this 100 note project is similar because all the pieces are a minute and under, more or less. And you can see that Karlheinz Essl was one of many composers that participated in this. Just looking through, yeah, you have David Bond himself writing something, Eric Branch, Douglas De Silva, Craig Bacallion, James Bond, I'm assuming a relative, Tamara Wilcox, Benjamin Buchanan, Karlheinz Essl, Jonathan Shaw, Charles Turner, Olivia Kiefer. I think I've heard some other toy piano pieces of hers actually played by Carson Kuhlman has performed a number of her toy piano works. Jack Keyt, Ed Ruchalski, Evan Gallagher, I think I recognize that name from other 15 Minutes of Fame stuff. Carl Henning, Rodrigo Baggio, Alisny Rien, Adam Carolyn, Alexander Blustin. This video was removed, but was by Sahid Alberto Suestigui Cordova. John Flannery, I recognize that name. Ole Harkavi. Blair Whittington, I recognize that name as well from these 15 Minutes of Fame things. Christopher M. Wicks, J.M. Block, Carlotta Ferrari, Italian composer who I do have some of her scores, but I don't think I've featured her on the channel yet. Josh Schmidt, Dai Wei Lu, Renee Mayoral, Max Chung, Sarah Brown, Stephen Montalvo, Yanis Migdanis, Rodney Lister, Daniel Height, David Roslan, Ken Metz, Jorg Delgado, James Fernando, Colin Holter, Richard Reese, Pamela J. Marshall, Jacob Mashak, Daniel Wynne Jones, Aaron Keyt. We're going to be looking at one of his pieces tomorrow for toy piano. Craig Pallett, Yvonne Hernandez, Paul Cowell, Evan West, Jose Jesus de Azevedo Souza, Carol Suki, Zoe Helfin, Ulf Gran, Jared Isaac Aragon, Juan Maria Soler, Neil Stipp, Javier Shuang Zhu, Hernan Zamora Galvez, Aaron Heisel, Michael Schaefer, John Jeffrey Gibbons, Nicholas O'Neill, Satoru Ikeda, Dennis Bathory Kitts, Michael Todd Colville, Stephen Lilly, Jason Torrens, Peter Walton, Kaori Okatani, Erwin Deleu, Justin Ryder, Rob Funkhauser, Jim Pedden, Ross James Carey, and William Brooks. So, yeah, that's 75 composers. I'll just put a link to this YouTube playlist in the video description, maybe to this specific one. And I'll have you enjoy some YouTube music today. Yeah, I'll let you know what I think of this one. It's very short, so this video is overly long. Okay, that didn't take very long at all. Interesting that it's converges on this F, because that's kind of like the range of the instrument. You have 3 octaves starting on F. I like the flow to it. I don't know if this performance was as accurate as it could be. I don't think it got quite up to eighth equals 400. But oh well. Dynamics again, I think David did an okay job. Toy pianos just naturally don't have a dynamic range from piano to fortissimo, so it's more of a, try your best kind of thing. So yeah, that was Centime. And tomorrow we'll look at something by Aaron Keyt, I'm pretty sure. If this interests you, I mean, you got a whole hour of miniatures that you can explore as well. Okay, so today's piece is a pretty large multi-movement toy piano work by Kyle Gann, an American composer, I believe. This was written in 2013. It could also be performed on Celesta, although most Celestas have 4 or 5 octaves, and this is written for a 3-octave toy piano. Like, it doesn't exceed that range, right? It's got a nice program note here, and the whole thing's about 17 minutes long. Surrealities. I don't know if I mentioned the title. A little bit out of it right now. Yeah, so the score is freely available on Kyle's website. The different movements are Axioms of the Wind, Deep Denial, movement 2, Disaggregated Harmonies, movement 3, a canon at the major 7th, Circling the Horizon, movement 4, I think, Unaccommodating Polka, movement 5, Incommensurate quantities, movement 6. Mistime to do, movement 7. And that's it, if I'm correct. Each of these are also dated. For my 57th birthday, my wife gave me a 3-octave toy piano. I was in the mood to work out some ideas within extreme limitations, so I wrote these pieces for it. Each piece is based on some idea or juxtaposition of ideas that shouldn't work, and I wanted to make it work. Bitonality is common, and it's very inspired by Darius Milhaud. We have, I don't know if we have a Milhaud episode on the channel yet. We have an homage to Milhaud in the piano series. If you're interested in that, that might be a nice pairing with this episode. Um, and he compares some of the ideas in, for example, the early one, disaggregated harmonies, I think. Or no, that's not the earliest one. But anyways, so he's talking about individual movements here. Movement 3, the canon at the major seventh, he says reminds him of Schoenberg's Opus 19. Is that the little pieces? Yes. So we've covered Opus 19 on the channel if you're interested in that. It's his little piano pieces. The fourth movement. Okay, so the fourth movement is a simple idea where one hand goes through the range of the instrument and the other one stays put. And then there's the other movement we were looking at. Movement 6 is bitonal canon as well, but at the diminished fourth. And the piece is dedicated to his wife, of course, who gave him the toy piano. Yeah, as for the composer, like, this is all freely available on his website, right? He has like PDFs and MP3s of all of his pieces. Born in Dallas, Texas in 1955, he writes both microtonal and standard tuned music. And he's an author of 7 books on American music. His magnum opus is called Hyperchromatica, and it's a 3.5-hour cycle of pieces for 3 retuned computer-driven pianos in a 33-tone scale. These are his books. He has a whole book on Ives' Concord Sonata, or I guess he was editor of a number of essays or author of a number of essays on that sonata. He has a book about John Cage. He has the music of Conlon Nancarrow. I might have read this. Well, I read a book once that was like a description of every player piano study of Conlon Nancarrow, like one after another. So that might be that. And then he has this kind of survey book called American Music in the 20th Century. He also wrote for the Village Voice as a music critic and taught at Bard College. So all of his career is kind of revolving around New York, where he lives. Studied with Ben Johnston, the famous microtonal composer. Morton Feldman, probably in New York. And Peter Gann, who I'm not familiar with. Fourth of his music. So a lot of his microtonal music is for 58 pitches per octave, I guess. Gann was co-founder of the Society for Minimalist Music. He's written more than 3,500 articles for more than 45 publications. That sounds kind of crazy. From 1999 to 2010, he wrote the American Composer column for Chamber Music magazine. So yeah, a lot of. I mean, that was the big biography. A lot of it is about his work as an author, which I find really interesting. I didn't really know anything about this composer going into this, so I'm quite impressed with this bio. To show you where I found him, actually, there's this resource called the Toy Piano Library, which is authored by Daria Binkowski. I've submitted works to this if you're a composer with toy piano pieces. It's very easy. And I was going through it trying to find scores with like, toy piano pieces with freely available scores, and like this came up, right? Of course, Kyle Gann has these two pieces. So that's literally how I found him. I did not know he was such an accomplished author. So kind of interesting. Uh, lot to explore here on his website. For example, he has all these examples of tunings and resources. So this page will basically be, I think I can link to each individual movement. But yeah, I'll have a bunch of links in the video description if you want to listen to this. It takes about 17 minutes to get through all of them. And it's alternating between two performers. So Kyle Gann himself is performing some, and this other pianist, Therese Malingro, is performing the others. Okay, so it's a nice little set of pieces. It didn't quite distract me from other personal things on my mind, but I think it was pretty enjoyable. I like it has like a big ending and beginning movement, right? So that's a nice strategy. And then the middle ones are very short. I think movements 5 and 6 are the shortest. Um, and the textures in the outer two movements were really, really clear, really easy to hear. I think both those textures, this one and this one, are very idiomatic for the toy piano. You don't get too many notes at once. Um, the more contrapuntal movements, it gets a little bit lost. Like it's hard to pick out all the different voices, but that might be kind of the point. I think what he's trying to do is like by writing these bitonal canons, he's trying to sort of like write the most pianistic thing he can for this like cheap imitation of a piano. So I think there's some humor in that, and they're both really good examples of bitonality, especially this one. I think that's movement 5, or no, that's movement 4. Yeah, this one I actually really liked as well. Um, Interesting use of rhythm and harmony, kind of messy, kind of like Olivier Messiaen, I would say. But it actually most reminded me of Lou Harrison in terms of composers we've looked at on the channel. Yeah, it was just most similar to like Lou Harrison, I would say. Um, the Schoenberg reference, it's more of a reference. It doesn't actually sound like Schoenberg, this one. Um, but that's kind of funny too, because it's like a quotation of a real piano piece played on a toy piano, and then sort of tastefully turned into this canon. Um, yeah, kind of cool. Maybe a little bit dated sounding for 2013, but I think this was more of a personal challenge for the composer to like work with limitations. So I think they're just writing in their typical style, or and yeah, it's kind of neat. We're looking at one other toy piano piece of his, so I look forward to that later in the series. And yeah, that's it for today. So today's piece is JouJou by Jeffrey Harrington. It's a piece for toy piano solo, and it's just 3 pages. So I imagine it's pretty short. Goes from 4 flats to a key of 1 flat to a key of 2 sharps to a key of 5 sharps, and then back to a key of 4 flats. So I'm assuming it's tonal. Looking at the range here, I think this is just a 2 octave toy piano from middle C to C6, which is how I like to see the stuff notated. Some people notate it like sounding an octave higher. I think the last piece we looked at did that. I think this is a little bit more intuitive, having everything at pitch. I don't know much about this composer. I also don't see a lot of personal website things. Born in Forest, Mississippi in 1955. Uh, Went to high school in New Orleans, Louisiana. Studied at Juilliard and Tulane. Some of the composers he studied with include Elliott Carter and Roger Sessions. But he attributes his education largely to self-study. His music is largely influenced by the rhythms of New Orleans. He's interested in counterpoint, and he's a noted microtonalist and experiments with that sort of thing. So if you look at his microtonal stuff, a lot of 19 equal temperament, some hyper piano stuff, which I think is just like a microtonal virtual piano. He has a suite for a quarter tone synthesizer, and then you just have a bunch of electronic music as well, it looks like. This piece is firmly within his solo rep, although I don't see it in the list here. So, anyways, link to a recording is in the video description, and yeah, I'm interested in what this thing sounds like. So, I'll let you know in a bit here. Okay, yeah, so this thing is pretty fun. It's very loud. I like the like plodding kind of 3+3+2 rhythm it has going on. It's very metal. Um, it's pretty interesting what he's able to do contrapuntally with uh, such a small range. I guess it's not too crazy, but it is kind of reminiscent of Bartok. You know, it doesn't get too complicated, which I appreciate. It's mostly just can be simplified to kind of like two voices with, the occasional chord or interval or something in one of the voices. Um, yeah, well performed, well mixed. I think this is a fairly interesting little piece, and it's just shy of 2 minutes. So, yeah, it's pretty fun for a little tonal thing. Um, so yeah, as for tomorrow, I think I'm gonna start uploading on weekdays and taking weekends off. See how that works for me. So tomorrow we'll have tomorrow's episode and then a bit of a break. Okay. Yeah, we might look at this other Jeffrey Harrington piece tomorrow. There's another piece that is in between. I don't know if it has a recording though. Okay, so today I'm looking at another piece by Jeffrey Harrington for toy piano. So it's called Tantrum. Um, yeah, it looks very rhythmic, kind of like the last one. Again, the engraving is not the prettiest. There's some glaring mistakes, but it's readable. This one is just, it kind of has a similar thing where it modulates between very different keys, so 6 flats, then 2 flats, then 1 sharp for a long time, and then back to 5 flats. I guess it started with 5 flats. Yeah, my mistake. So I know it was written in 2011, so a year earlier than the piece we looked at yesterday, by the same composer. So if you're interested in the composer, I would go to yesterday's episode um, to just kind of like get his biography. I talked about that a little bit. So something I didn't notice yesterday was he has here recorded using a sound font produced by a toy piano. So that could be why yesterday's recording sounded so clean, is because it wasn't played on an actual toy piano. It was just like samples. So there is some sort of post-production going on here, which is kind of betraying us a little bit. Um, but regardless, I think this would still work on the instrument. I don't think it's too crazy. Um, this one, it seems, is for 3-octave toy piano, whereas the one we looked at yesterday was just 2-octave. So this one goes from F all the way up to the high F, and it's written at pitch with 2 treble clefs, which I like. I think this is the best way to write toy piano stuff. So I'm going to listen to this thing. It's only 4 minutes. I encourage you to click on the link in the video description to listen to it yourself. And yeah, I'll let you know what I think. So my thoughts on this piece. I actually kind of like this one better than the one we looked at yesterday. It's more virtuosic. I think it'd be harder to get a good performance of this, but I appreciate how percussive it is and like kind of unrelenting. It really just treats the instrument as a percussion instrument, which I think is a really typical use of the toy piano, especially in like an ensemble or something. So I think in that sense, this is really good, like loud piano writing. Just looking at it and how the ranges of the two hands overlap, it might be kind of impossible to play, right? It just might be too uncomfortable for most people's hands. But you never know. You might have very effective performance of it where there's just the occasional dropped note. Or maybe it would be best suited for 2 toy pianos where one person is taking each hand, and maybe you could have a very effective performance for a toy piano duo. Yeah, the samples themselves are pretty good. They give you a sense of how distorted the lower register of the toy piano is, and the extreme high register. It gets kind of bell-like when you get too low, which I think works in this piece's favor. So, yeah, that was Tantrum. Just looking at their the description in this YouTube video, it's kind of interesting. This bio is like kind of dated, so around the time that he wrote this piece, he had moved to France because his home was threatened by a oil spill in Sanibel Island, Florida. So that's kind of interesting. And then he sort of mentions that around the time that this was composed, he had 4 world premieres in 20 days, which is, yeah, it's nice to see people just matter-of-factly talking about their accomplishments, because that is an accomplishment. A lot of composers hardly have anything premiered. So, yeah, that was it for this composer. I think these are the only scores of his that I have. I think if I can find the recording, we're gonna have a look at our first Juan Park piece on Monday, is the plan. Okay, so today's piece is Lullaby for Noah by American composer Juan Park. Found this through this spreadsheet, which I believe is on Park's website. It's he's very good about documenting his work. So you have all these pieces. I think he's up to 136 pieces from the year 2002 to the present year. And yeah, this piece seemingly does not have a SoundCloud or YouTube link. It's just a link to this Dropbox, which also has a recording in it. This piece was written for a Melissa and Doug toy piano, pictured here. The instrument has a range of 2 octaves and a percussive sound. And yeah, it's very simple. There's no articulation, no dynamics. This is our first Ju Park episode, so I want to talk about him a little bit. I first met him at the Splice Institute, which is a electronic music workshop at Western Michigan University. Uh, I've done it twice. I think the first year I didn't take any classes with Park, and then the second year I took a Super Collider course of his and also a Faust course. He's very interested in like scripted programming languages for sound. Here's a short bio. So he makes music with electronics, toys, and other sources that he can record it or synthesize. He's the recipient of the Night Arts Challenge Detroit and Krej Arts Fellowship. His music and writings are available on the ICMC DVD, Spectrum Press, MIT Press, Parma, Visceral Media, MCSD, Seamus, and No Remixes labels. Yeah, he teaches music technology at Wayne State University, which I believe is in Detroit. You have a list of works here. The Google Sheet is here at the top. You can see he has some web projects, a lot of work for instrument and live electronics, some multimedia stuff, some fixed media stuff. None of his solo pieces are here, though. I should also say that at Splice, he would do this like workshop for no input mixer, which was a lot of fun. And I believe he has a few pieces for no input mixer. So he's very interested in like feedback music and stuff like that. So if you're interested in making noise music, I think this would be a really interesting composer to approach, especially if, you're trying to like get into notated music from a more electronic background. So I'm going to listen to this piece. It's very short. I encourage you to listen to it as well, and I'm going to let you know my thoughts. This Google Sheet is in the video description. You're going to have to go to the 16th row of the sheet to find this piece. Okay, so this was a very pretty little melody, is a minute long. Um, I like the use of appoggiaturas, I guess you would call them, the end of phrases. This major second is really fun here. The second last line, and also um, trying to think where else I heard it. Yeah, this one in the bass on the second line, the end of it, which also comes back at the end. It's just a nice little dissonance, and yeah, this is definitely suited for the instrument. I think it's a lot more interesting on toy piano than like if you play this on a regular piano, it would be a lot less interesting, right? So I think there's something there, right? Some sort of aura that the toy piano has that is kind of captured in this piece. So tomorrow we're going to look at most likely a piece by Aaron Keyt or Kite. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce their name. From 2007. Alrighty. So today's piece is by Aaron Keyt, Keyt. I believe it's called Seven Fugues for Toy Piano, and it's for a 30 key toy piano. So just a little bit over 2 octaves. If we look at the notation, it looks like It's notated an octave lower than sounding, so it's from C3 to F5 when probably the instrument itself is sounding C4 to F6. Mirrored by Robert Fleitz at the Second International Toy Piano Festival in Tampa, Florida, January 7th, 2017. But it was written 10 years earlier in 2007. You can see each fugue is kind of takes up one page, so they're kind of like miniatures. Some of them take up 2 pages though. This one takes up 5 pages. This one 2 pages, and then the last one takes up 3 pages. In total, it's about 13 minutes of music, so they average around like 2 minutes a piece. They're a Pacific Northwest experimental music composer, so Seattle-based. He's written numerous works for piano, organ, and other solo instruments, as well as chamber ensembles. He also does some computer-generated stuff. Many of his recent pieces have been inspired by Alaska, and I guess his music appeals to nature. It reflects the natural world. Studied at the University of Washington School of Music. Was also a trombonist in addition to being a composer there. And then he got his uh, master's, I'm assuming, from Princeton, also in composition. He's a founding member of this ensemble, Band Rehearsal, which he founded with, I'm assuming, his wife. No, it was formed with Keith Eisenbray and Neil Kosali Meyer, but I believe Jennifer Chung is his wife. I was reading this bio earlier. I'm assuming it's an improvisation ensemble because, yeah, they have these massive 30 plus minute tracks here. Usually gallery performances, it seems. And then as for this pianist, see if I can find anything on them. Robert Fleitz is a pianist composer. He seems to be based in New York, just skimming through this. I guess he was a guest artist at this Toy Piano Festival. Can't seem to find exactly which one it is. There's a couple different Toy Piano Festivals. There's one called Uncaged, which the ninth one was in 2017, so that's not the same. There's also this annual one at UC San Diego, but the 25th one was this past year, so again, it's not the same one. Maybe the Florida one? Yeah, it's probably that one. So as you can see, toy piano is a very upstart thing. It's very inexpensive. So there's multiple festivals in the US that have calls for scores for this type of thing. Um, yeah, that's all I have to say about Seven Fugues. Yeah, I'll have a listen to this, and I'll get back to you in about 15 minutes or so. Link to a recording is in the video description if you want to listen along. Okay, I hope you took the time to listen to this one. It's an interesting experience listening to it with the score. You can see in this image here that the score is printed on half of a letter paper. So it's in landscape, but you're supposed to print it like two to a page and then cut it out because this specific shoe nut toy piano has a little clip for sheet music. So I thought that was really cute. It maybe you would find that inspiring if you want to write for toy piano. Also, the coil binding on the side is very cute. Um, and yeah, as for the score itself, I think these fugues were really interesting. They kind of pushed the boundaries of what a fugue can be right from the start. Like the first one is actually very extreme, and I like that. And it's kind of like the limitations of the toy piano kind of force you to do this kind of thing. Um, the last one is a double fugue. I think it sounds pretty final. And my favorite one was probably the sixth one. I like this idea of using silences. Kind of picks up towards the end, but yeah, I can tell that this composer has a really good sensibility about counterpoint in general. Um, the fifth one was pretty fanciful with these clusters and things. I think he did about all that you could do with this idea, like writing fugues for toy piano, and it definitely feels like a piece that is the product of some skill and labor, and it also got me thinking about how the toy piano does not really sustain the way a piano sustains. There's no damper. So when you lift a note, it just continues to ring. You can hear when the key lifts, but regardless, you just kind of strike the note and it rings. So there's a lot of like very purposeful rests in here that get lost simply because it's not played on a real piano. Which I guess is kind of the fun of looking at the score is like you realize where the lines are and it's not as audible in performance just because of the limitations of the instrument. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. Also, the compressed range, you have to have a lot of very narrow lines or lines that overlap. Probably our only piece by this composer on the channel. So thank you for the music, Aaron, if you're watching this.
Today's piece is WebernSpielWerk by Karlheinz Essl. It's for toy piano or celesta or harpsichord or organ, and it was written in 2005. Today we're going to be exploring the toy piano version. It was written to commemorate, I guess, the 60th anniversary of Webern's death, 15th of September 1945. Dedicated to Isabel Ettenauer. Isabel Ettenauer is a toy pianist slash pianist based in Austria. The first page of the score says for toy piano or celesta, so I guess those are the most preferred. And then it's labeled toy piano here. So I'm assuming toy piano is the original kind of assignment here. We have lots of chords with some grace note things and pauses. Looks kind of interesting. And I believe there's a recording of this on the composer's SoundCloud, which is toy piano, but filtered through like some sort of ring modulator effect. I don't know if that's the only recording out there, though. When I was uh, visiting Austria last year, I think Karlheinz Essl was recording an organ version of this. Um, I remember him mentioning a rehearsal of some sort. I'm 80% sure that this was the piece that was being recorded because I remember him sending me a video or something. And I remember thinking, oh, that's probably something I'm going to cover on the Toy Piano series. So, because I knew I had the score. So, yeah, let's see what the history of this thing actually is. So, here is the synopsis of Anton Webern's death. As you may know, he was shot by an American occupation soldier in alleged self-defense, and he died quite young. Two commemorative events took place here. So there was the 10th Composers Forum Mittersill. Essl produced for that a sound installation called WebernSpielWerk. It's for computer controlled bells, carillon.
And then there was also a commemorative concert at St. Anna's Church, for which he wrote WebernSpielWerk for toy piano, which is basically the same piece but projected onto a toy piano. So this originated as a sound installation, and it's sort of an exercise in reduction. So the pervasive character of the carillon, which filled the whole place in the afternoon, is reduced to the poor sound world of a toy piano, whose sound produced by struck metal rods resembles that of a bell, but is much more restrained and intimate. The organ version came in 2021 and was recorded for an album in 2023. So, interesting. We have both versions here. This is the recording I was talking about that he was preparing in December of 2025. And then this is the one we're going to look at today, which is for toy piano. This one was prepared on July 2021. So, and it's on a Michelson toy piano. At the beginning of the series, I mentioned a few toy piano brands. I forgot to mention Michelson, which I think is a big one. Yeah, and it has a specific sound, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, this is a French one, which is kind of fun. You have the shoe nut, the German one, and then the French Michelson. Oh, I guess shoe nut is American. So you have American toy pianos and French toy pianos, I guess. Okay, this video has rambled on long enough. Let's have a listen to this thing. Recording is in the video description, as always. Okay, yeah, my thoughts on this thing. Really haunting piece. All four movements are kind of similar. I also realized that this recording is a version with ring modulation on top, or frequency modulation, or some sort of effect like that, which makes the Michelson toy piano even more bell-like. It's already a pretty bell-like toy piano compared to the American style, but then you add the effect on top of it, and it's even more like a carillon or a mini carillon. So I kind of understand what Essl is going for with the electronics in this. I kind of wish it was a part of the score, though. It's unclear that that's intended, but there is this performance history. I realized that I stole from this piece, actually, this notation where there are like grace notes going to rests. I totally took this and used it in my own toy piano piece. So I must have been listening to this at around the same time because I'm not clever enough to come up with that notation. And a couple people online gave me shit for this notation actually when I made some Twitter posts, and you know, it goes to show like regardless of whether you remember or not, your ideas probably come from somewhere, especially the really bold ones. So maybe I should keep better track of where I steal my stuff just so that I can whip it out. RIP Webern. Next up, also if you're interested, I encourage you to listen to the organ version too. I'm sure it's very different. You'll hear all those harmonies a lot clearer. But yeah, as we work our way back here, uh, looks like we have a piece by Michael Denhoff, who I'm not familiar with at all. If I can't find a recording of that, we have another Kyle Gann piece. And then I think we're moving on into the toy piano and electronics pieces. So, uh, yeah, we probably won't finish the series this week, but definitely finish it next week. So, yeah, that's the plan. All right, so today's piece is Pakato by Michael Denhoff. It's a piece for solo toy piano, and here's the score. 2003. dotted bar lines, and everything written at pitch with two treble clefs. It looks like it might be a 2-octave instrument. It's getting pretty gnarly with the chords there. Um, but I think it is still all within 2 octaves. Okay, yeah, very very interesting just on first glance. I believe this is a German composer. Let me look him up. Yeah, German composer and cellist born in 1955. Uh, lived and worked in Bonn since 1982. He studied with Hans Werner Henze, composition, and he's also a cellist. I think I mentioned that, so that's a big part of his education as well. His music is influenced by poetry and the visual arts. Several of his orchestral and chamber works have been inspired by lyrics and paintings. He has instrumental work cycles based on the pictures of Marc Chagall, Paul Klee, Vasily Kandinsky, Albrecht Dürer, and especially Francisco Goya. He's also inspired by the writers Rainer Maria Rilke, Paul Celan, Samuel Beckett, and Stéphane Mallarmé. He's inspired by Zimmerman. Actually, I learned about this composer only a couple of years ago. Have not gotten a chance to really explore their music. But and then some bigger names: Olivier Messiaen, Morton Feldman, and Georges Kurtog, all of which I really like. I love those three composers. We've touched on all of them on the channel, although we only have one Kurtog episode. And yeah, his toy piano piece is not on his list of works here, but Wikipedia can be pretty dated at times. Also, maybe this is a lesser work, you know? Looking at the video, it's only 6 minutes long, so link to this recording is in the video description, and cut to my reactions to hearing it. Okay, yeah, so this one is probably my favorite in the toy piano series so far. Like, it's very effortlessly contrapuntal. It really reminds me of Olivier Messiaen. Um, and it's just like this very self-contained little piece. I really like the way that it approaches this challenge of writing something for 2 octaves. I think it gets up to like 6 voice counterpoint, and then you get more of this like it leaves the contrapuntal texture so at a certain point. I think like around. I mean, it's hard to say because it kind of follows its own rules. There's a lot of weird parallel motion things going on. Um, but yeah, I thought it was really fascinating. I like the way it plays with rhythm and silence too. It feels like additive rhythm stuff, like very Messiaen. But I wasn't a huge fan of the reverb on the recording. It sounds a little bit fake. Kind of get why it's there. Like he doesn't want all this dead silence, but I think it might be a little bit more effective to just hear a more natural recording of it. Um, but yeah, what this is kind of like a hidden gem, I think. Um, so yeah, very cool. Never would have discovered this composer if this piece wasn't just randomly on the Toy Piano Library website. So that's a nice find, I think. Okay, so today's piece is by American composer Kyle Gann. It's called Paris Intermezzo, and it's for toy piano, although you could also play it on regular piano. So toy piano or piano. Um, so toy piano, the range is limited. The last toy piano piece of Gann's we looked at, it was all notated an octave lower than pitch. So here the lowest note seems to be this C3, probably a C4 in reality, and then I don't think it goes above the written F5, kind of like the last piece of his we looked at. So it's for maybe like 30 key toy piano from C to F, C4 to F6, and here we have it dated 1989, New York City. It looks very different from the last toy piano piece of his. It just is more like a simple melody over a, you know, triplet figure accompaniment kind of thing. But there are these nice little flourishes, which I think are going to translate well to the instrument. Um, there's definitely some extreme kind of like ledger line use in the left hand, which is kind of why I prefer to see toy piano just notated into two treble clefs um, at pitch. But regardless, maybe he wants, like when you play it on a regular piano, he wants it to sound an octave lower. That's fair enough, right? Um, okay, see if I can find a recording of this. By the way, if you want to know more about this composer, I talk about him on the previous Kyle Gann episode. And there should be a recording of this just on his website. Oh, not, I think this is the better spreadsheet here. Let's just search Paris. We'll see if this PDF has any. No, it's exactly the same. So there's no front matter. And then here's the MP3. It's 6.5 minutes. I'm gonna listen to this real quick and let you know my thoughts. Feel free to pause the video here and listen to it yourself. Link is in the video description. Okay, yeah, so this is a weird semitonal work. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it. I think it's probably meant for toy piano. I think it might not translate to piano as well. Um, it has a really fun use of time signatures. It also doesn't notate time signatures, so it's kind of free. But it's very slow, right? So it's kind of um, I don't know if I was entirely in the mood for it today. Um, I like this performance. I'm not sure. I didn't look who is performing it. It's not even listed. It's probably the composer. And yeah, it's a bit of an enigmatic little piece because there's no program notes. I'm not really sure what he was going for with it, but you might be able to find a place for it on a toy piano concert. I think it's an interesting part of the literature. It was written in New York, where of course John Cage was active, and in the 80s, I can't think of a lot of other people doing this in the 80s, so historically I think it's interesting. I'm going to take a couple days off, and we're going to look at some toy piano and electronic stuff on Monday. My Monday, I'm not sure what day of the week it'll be for you, but yeah, that's the plan. Okay, so today we are looking at a piece for toy piano and electronics, and it's by composer Timothy Roy. Okay, here it is. Wunderkind for toy piano, fixed media, and live electronics, commissioned by the Kansas City Electronic Music and Arts Alliance in 2012. First prize winner of the 2013 Prix d'Estelos in the mixed media category. Wunderkind is a well-known German term historically applied to a person who possesses an extraordinary talent. At an early age, the creative impetus for this work was the desire to explore the intellectual workings of a developing child prodigy. The electronic component used to expand the palette of such a restricted instrument. This represents the mind's ear of the child. The opening cadenza begins clumsy as the child seemingly explores the instrument for the first time. Musical ideas that begin to mature, congeal, and find meaning. And fixed media starts 2 minutes into the piece. A little bit of history on the toy piano. I'll skip that for now. This one is written for a 30 key toy piano, a JMAR, um, sounding as written, C3 to F5. It may be C4 to F6. I have a feeling that it is. Can be hard to place what the actual um, fundamental of toy piano notes is. Usually the you know first harmonic is much stronger, and that's sort of the strongest thing you hear. Okay, here it says many models have 30 or more keys but sound an octave higher. It's preferable to use one that is this low. So there you go. I didn't realize that there were toy pianos that went this low, but I stand corrected. The Shunut Model 3005 conforms to these specifications. So let's see what that looks like. It's this baby grand thing, which is almost $400 Canadian on Amazon if you want one. It seems like he's really interested in this like grand piano style, something that a child would be sitting at, and you know, it looks like a grand piano. Not all toy pianos are like that. Most of them are more of an upright style. Equipment, you need a mixer, two PAs, a microphone for the toy piano. I'm sure SM57 or something would work. You need a computer with at least a 1 gig of RAM, an audio interface with 4 outs. So I guess my Scarlett 2i4 would work. And one pair of headphones for the performer. Also, you need, well, optionally, you could have a foot pedal, so like a MIDI pedal. The amplified toy piano diffused into the speakers. It's like that's like your dry signal. And you also have your wet signal, so some processed toy piano, some delay and reverb, and then you also have stereo playback of some fixed media. So all that's coming out of the speakers. I guess that's why you need 4 outs. Okay, so the mic goes into input 1 of your audio interface, and then your laptop is running a performance patch, probably on max. Outputs 1 and 2 of the interface are the fixed media, left and right channels. Output 3 is the toy piano live processing, and output 4 is the click track, which is then sent back to the performer's headphones. So yeah, it's not listed here, but obviously you need to send all this to a mixer, right? So it's not directly from the audio interface into the speakers. It's sort of like run from stage kind of thing. Audio interface to the mixing board, send the click track back. Commissioned by Kari Johnson and the Kansas City Electronic Music and Arts Alliance. Here's the first page. So yeah, here's where the fixed media comes in at page 3. So yeah, this thing looks really interesting. I like the concept, and I like the occasion of its composition. It's seems like a very professional project. Unlike a lot of the toy piano pieces we have been looking at are more personal projects, and this seems to be more like a proper concert work. Let's look into this composer a little bit. It's first time getting to know them. So here's the bio. Born in Nederland, Texas, Timothy Roy composes music steeped in imagery and illusion, seeking to elicit a sense of time, place, and feeling. Acoustic, electronic, and mixed music. Roy endeavors to explore a broad range of mediums and contexts in which his work might be experienced. He's been commissioned by the uh, ASCAP Seamus uh, project. So Seamus is like the Society of Electroacoustic Music in the U.S., and they have this like commissioning thing that they do, I think annually for their conference. So he has a fixed ambisonic fixed media piece commissioned by that organization. He also has a commission from the Shepherd Symphony Orchestra at Rice University, assuming that's where he studied. American Composers Forum gave him an honorable mention in the McKnight Composer Fellowship Awards just a couple years ago. And he's been recognized by a number of other awards. The Salvatore Martirano Memorial Composition Award, the ASCAP Seamus Student Commission Award, Robert Avalon International Competition for Composers. So yeah, this is actually a really good list of competitions to be applying to, honestly. And he's worked with Keith Kirchhoff, who we talked about on the channel. It's hard to parse this. It's a lot of accomplishments. It's a pretty big bio. This is not a short form bio by any means. He taught at Western Michigan University during the 2018 to 2019 academic year. And before that, he was teaching at Mid-America Nazarene University in Kansas. He got his DMA in composition at Rice. Also at Rice, he taught electronic music theory and composition. So most of his teaching experience was during his doctorate, it looks like. His Master of Music was from Missouri Kansas City Conservatory of Music and Dance, and his Bachelor of Music was from Southern Methodist University. Rice University has a very small but accomplished composition program, and they do a lot of electronic work there. So I'm not sure what the facilities are necessarily, but I do know that a lot of successful composers in that genre come out of there. So yeah, very cool stuff. I wish I could spend more time on it, on just the bio here, but I might come back to this later today just to grab some conferences and festivals that I are not on my radar. Okay, let's have a listen to this thing. Link to the recording is in the video description. I think it might be a SoundCloud recording today. Yes. So, no YouTube video, but we have this recording. It's a 10-minute piece, so it's quite substantial. Yeah, so I thought this was a really nice find. A lot of work put into this piece, very serious work, and it was a lot of fun listening through it with the score. Definitely had a lot of features that I associate with sort of electroacoustic music in the US, sort of like a lot of bell-like sounds, like transforming the sound of the toy piano, extending it in different directions, and a lot of exponential delay type sounds and things. But it was really well done, and I think the opening especially is very powerful. I like how the reverb comes in first, and then you get the fixed media. It's very cool. This is a really cool moment there. Yeah, this is definitely one to put in my back pocket, I think, if I want to get anyone interested in toy piano. I think it's a really great use of the instrument, super accessible, and I really want to see it live, Hearing it like this is not really the experience, but man, I can tell a lot of these sounds would be amazing in a nice black box theater. Especially with the performer sitting at the toy piano and all of that theatrics and stuff. So Very, very cool. Tomorrow we're looking at another piece for toy piano and electronics by composer Bunk. Today's piece is Being and Becoming by Bunk, written in 2010. It's for toy piano and electronics. This is what the first page of the score looks like. And then we have lots of staves for the electronics. Okay. So program notes, we have 3 quotes. First one is from Chick. Our way of organizing the data, which rushes in Gestalt style, that is in increasingly abstract form, speeds up experience into dangerous topsy-turvy fast-forward comedy. Our need for rapid disposal eliminates the details that bewitch, hold, or delay children. Art is one rescue from this chaotic acceleration, meter and poetry, tempo and music, form and color and painting, but we do feel that we are speeding earthward, crashing into our graves. And then a quote from Socrates. And a thing is not seen because it is visible, but conversely visible because it is seen. Nor is a thing led because it is in the state of being led, or carried because it is in the state of being carried, but the converse of this. It does not become because it is becoming, but it is in a state of becoming because it becomes. Then the third quote is by Cooper. Wait a minute, wait a minute. This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee. First performed by Xenia Postova. I believe I follow this pianist on Instagram at the International Computer Music Conference, pretty sure. Any toy piano with any register can be used. 3-octave toy piano is in mind from F2 to F5, sounding an octave higher, so from F3 to F6. Yeah. There are 4 gradations of loudness. Piano, mezzo, forte, forte. That's kind of interesting. I might steal that for the piece I'm writing right now. Yeah, I think my teacher Kokoras said he writes some pieces with only 3 dynamic gradations. But I think in this case, it is not just a stylistic choice. It's like the toy piano only has such a dynamic range, right? There's some extended techniques for the toy piano. I guess these can be observed in the video recording of the performance. So, bowing the body of the toy piano, friction tremolo. This is by gently touching the top of the keys and moving them without the keys depressing. So, yeah, you can shake the black keys, for example. Or, yeah, there's 2 different ones. So the black key one I think makes more sense. This is like putting your fingers in between the black keys and shaking them back and forth. Whereas this one, you're sort of touching the tops of the white keys or black keys and shaking them. And then there's just regular tremolos. Blowing on the keys. That must be a pretty quiet one. So we have some playing positions as well. So here's the stage. And then the 2 speakers are not left and right. It's more like there's a front right and a back left. That's where the electronics is coming from. And then you have a position for the performer on stage where the toy piano is being amplified. And then if you walk across the hall, there's position 2. No toy piano there, just the performer has to go there. Halfway in between, you have something called position 1. So yeah, I guess the idea is you really just get sounds in mono, but from at different points in the piece, it's from different speakers. So you get a mono signal from here, which is supposed to mimic the the toy piano. So you get like a stereo effect, but like live and not live. And the same thing here. It mentions a few times that when the performer is in this corner, they're bowing their score, basically. So that sound is mimicked over here. Let's look into the composer first, and then we'll have a listen here. It's our first Lou Bunk episode. An American composer and improviser inspired by many forms of experimental artistic expression. Influenced by the EA improv scene in and around Boston and New York. His music occupies many concert halls and art galleries and fringe performance spaces. He produces the concert series Open Sound in Somerville, Massachusetts. He's also chair of the Somerville Arts Council. He co-directs Kaleidoscope Music. I think I follow them on Instagram, which is a New York City-based new music ensemble. He is associate professor of music at Franklin Pierce University in New Hampshire. There he teaches electronic music and composition. His PhD was from Brandeis, and that was in music composition and theory. So, very concise bio. I like it. I like that it's not very focused on like listing collaborators or performances. It's more like here's my work as a music director and as someone in arts administration, and here's what I do musically. It's a really good artist statement, I think. Let's have a listen to the piece now. I believe it's on YouTube, so I'll put a link to that in the video description for all of you to enjoy. Yes, it's pretty interesting. It's definitely up my alley. It's an interesting contribution to the toy piano series because it's so different. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that and for the most part, the electronics just sat on top of the toy piano, which was in its lower register, but still quite high, right? So you didn't get any low frequencies really, just lots of like really high sine tones. And I liked that mix of like high sine tone stuff with toy piano. Um, Towards the end, it gets a little bit more textural. Like he introduces early on this idea of like these bell-like sounds, which are like a distorted toy piano. Those don't get explored until later. Um, it kind of reminded me of like the sounds themselves kind of reminded me of the Simon Steen Anderson piece we looked at, I think in the chamber orchestra series. But of course, it's very different context. Also, a lot to be learned about pacing. 15 minutes is kind of a difficult time frame to work with as a composer, so this might be one thing to look at if you're struggling to fill 15 minutes with not a lot of material, or you're trying to stretch material over a long time. I think this does a good job of that. I have one more piece in my spreadsheet for toy piano and electronics by Matt Malsky. So if I can find that, that's tomorrow. Hey, so change of plans today. I can't find the John Cage suite for toy piano online, and this Matt Malsky piece, which was in my spreadsheet, is no longer available through the toy piano library. So I downloaded this at one point, but I think it was after I had backed up my computer, but before my hard drive died last year. So it's nowhere to be found on my laptop, and I can't download it online anymore. So one thing I did remember though is this Evan Johnson piece, positioning radiography, is for one player. It's for three toy pianos, one player. So I figured that would still fit into the genre of solo toy piano, and it might be a nice closer for the series. So that's what we're doing today. Um, this piece was given to me by, I believe, John Nelson at the University of North Texas as part of a graduate composition seminar, and I'm pretty sure it's like a new complexity type piece. So the three toy pianos, one of them is an upright toy piano, 2 octaves from C4 to C6. And then you have a 3 octave concert grand. So concert grand, right? It's laid out, the tines are laid out flat. That's a 3 octave, F4, or no, F3 to F6. So these are the most two common toy piano ranges that we've seen throughout all the scores we looked at. And then this last one is a 1.5 octave diatonic toy piano, red Chinese in A. This is more of a rare find, right? This is something where it's literally just notes A through E, it seems. 12 notes. 12 notes, white keys. And I guess it sounds a major third lower or a minor, or no, sounds a minor third lower or a major sixth higher than written or something. So the actual keyboard doesn't correspond to a normal keyboard. 1-to-1 program note. Takes its title from a classic medical textbook published in 1939, discovering the ways in which a patient's body is best manipulated for diagnostic radiographic imagery. It's a source for the painter Francis Bacon. Strain and awkwardness are among the watchwords of this piece, as well as the nature of the instruments involved, the relationship between the performer and inconvenient instruments. Influenced by the harpsichord works of Johann Jacob Froberger. Everything is ornaments. So on the notation, the upper staff is usually assigned to the 2 octave piano and the lower staff is the 3 octave piano. But the staves mean right and left hand. There are some relatively extended passages where both hands are playing the 3 octave piano. And a third staff is needed for the 2 octave. The third instrument, the little red toy piano, is not used until the coda on page 13. So most of the repeats are just played twice. There's one thing on page 12 that has to be repeated 5 times. Sometimes a passage is marked off by multiple repeat indications. So this can happen in a number of ways. 2 pairs of repeat bars begin at the same point, but should be performed from top to bottom in an order given by circled numerals. Okay, and then 2 pairs of repeat bars can overlap. In this case, there would be no ambiguity about the sequence because one starts before the other. You can also have 1 pair of repeat bars contained entirely within another. Here the inner passage is repeated during each repetition of the outer passage. So you get twice as many of the inner passage, right? Dynamics are idealized in the score. That's fair. Grace notes should not necessarily be played as fast as possible. Instead, they should be sculpted and phrased. Then we got all kinds of other symbols here. So you got an improvised ornament as the tilde. Diamond note head is to have as little pitch as possible. Okay, kind of like a diamond note head in a regular piano. A quasi-bebung is this symbol. Cross note head is to hit the key with another finger percussively, like after it's been depressed, right? So once the key's down, you can strike it, and it doesn't re-articulate the note. It just is like a percussive sound. And then rapid repetition of a pitch is marked with a Z, I guess, in the stem of the note. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is what the score looks like. It's handwritten, you can see. And let's see what the end looks like with the third piano. So there's where the third piano enters in the coda, and it stays until the end. It's actually the last thing you hear. Composed in Providence, PI, 2007. So Evan Johnson is an American composer now residing in Amsterdam. His music focuses on extremes of density and reticence, of difficulty and of sparsity. Here we got a list of ensembles that have performed his work, and then international festivals that have played it. Seems to be well performed in Europe, particularly. Not so much in America. It's like about half and half. He's also written articles in Tempo, Contemporary Music Review, Music Text, Music Theory Spectrum, The Grove Music Online, Encyclopedia, New Music Box. He's also provided essays for CDs on Mode, Neos, NMC, Metier, HCR, and Kairos labels. Uh, Composition degrees from SUNY Buffalo and Yale University. So yeah, quite accomplished. We just look at his works. It's pretty small output because I think he puts quite a bit of work into each piece. Like we see 3 pieces written this year, 2 pieces to be completed next year, and he does about he's been doing about that many pieces a year since 2002. That's when his opus starts. Okay, that's my introduction of the piece. There is a score follower video actually, so we're gonna watch that and appreciate your time with my brief introduction here. I'm gonna give my opinions in just a moment. Just gotta listen to the thing. Okay, so I lied. I didn't realize Jana Lux has played this one. She actually went to University of Toronto around the same time I did, so she was always a beast as a pianist. So it was nice to get to see some of her playing again. Admittedly, I did not follow the score for most of this performance. It was a bit hard to follow, especially with the repetitions and things. But yeah, it goes to show how like the kind of opportunity you have writing for toy piano to work with real pianists and virtuosic pianists. So I like that this is a virtuosic piece. Um, Also, we don't do a lot of new complexity on the channel, so I think it's good that we can flesh it out a bit with this. I didn't really look up the dedicatee for this one. Isabel Ettenauer is a toy pianist slash pianist who we maybe covered already in this series. I'm not sure, but the name looks familiar. Um, so yeah, that was likely the person who premiered it. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I like the theatricality of it, having 3 pianos on stage, and the score is obviously very, very beautiful, but it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse to understand. Yeah, it's really hard to sonically hear the difference between the 3 pianos in this recording because they're all shoe nuts. Maybe it would be a little bit easier to hear the performance and the uncomfortable aspects of it if you had like a mix of different models, like I think the score itself kind of suggests that, like maybe you have um, one shoe nut for the 2 octave and then like a larger J-Mar piano, and then like maybe the little one is a little French or German thing, like an antique. Yeah, that is it for the series. Um, Let me know what you think. Is toy piano cool? Do you want to write for it? Um, I think there were some really great pieces in this list, and a lot of new composers that I probably wouldn't have even discovered if it wasn't for the Toy Piano library and these free scores that I downloaded. So very cool. Kind of overwhelmingly American, and obviously there wasn't a single female composer in the series, which is a shame, but other than that, I think it was pretty good. While we're here, we may as well see what the next series will be. I've just been picking them randomly lately, and there's not a lot left, you know. Quickly running out of scores to cover. Okay, solo viola. Let me make sure I can cover this. It'll be fun if I can. Okay, so I guess there are recordings of it. It just has a slightly different name sometimes. So yes, I can do this. We're gonna do a trio of solo viola pieces. So that'll be fun. Take us into just into next week probably. I'll make a mental note.